Some things never cease to amaze me. Sunrises, hitting a golf ball straight, and the overwhelming ignorance of the common person. Here's a thought. Use Form Bs to determine classification. This, in fact, is competitive balance. Season 8 of Sun Coaches Podcast, where not everyone is funny or tells funny stories, but everyone has a story. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, and today I'm excited to be joined by reigning state champion head coach of Creekside High School, Coach Maurice Dixon. Thanks for being on with me.
Thank you so much. Try pride.
Well, Coach, you are a graduate of Creekside High School. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So did you grow up in that area, your whole life?
Well, I was a city kid, born at Crawford Long, and when I was around about 8, we moved down to Palmetto.
Okay, so what all did you play in high school? Were you just a football guy, or did you do a little bit of everything?
Oh, no, I did a little bit of everything. I played football, I played basketball, I wrestled, and I threw the shot, put a discus. So I did the track, the field.
Yeah, those kind of kids that are hard to come by these days. How much do you encourage yours to make sure they put as many irons in the fire as they can?
I encourage everybody to play as many sports as possible. I love my offensive linemen, defensive linemen to be wrestlers. My skill guys to run track. I got a son, he a 3-sport athlete, so I'm definitely not hogging them. I want them to represent Creekside as best as possible.
Yeah, and that's something that, seems like in the past 10 years, these kids try to specialize, and they don't understand that the more opportunities they give themselves. And I think it's important, guys like us that grew up playing multiple sports, tell them, hey, man, I do football. I've coached other things, and I played a bunch of stuff. I think it's important for them to see that.
Exactly.
So who was your head coach in high school?
Amos McQuarrie.
What was he like?
How can I say it? A short, honorary man, big on discipline, but a great guy, man. I love Coach McQuarrie.
Yeah, it was a different time back then when we were coming through.
Yeah.
So
3 days, all that good stuff.
You could get hollered at back then. A little bit.
Just a little bit.
So what did you do after high school? Did you have an opportunity to play at the next level?
Yeah, I signed to go play football at Bethune-Cookman University. I played there for 2 years, then I transferred to the University of West Georgia, where I finished and graduated.
Well, how was Bethune-Cookman getting to go to an HBC? A buddy of mine, Cavius Preston, played baseball at Bethune.
What I say, it was a good experience, but it was a smaller HBCU at the time. So my biggest thing was, it wasn't the college experience that I thought I was going to have when I went to college. I wanted to go to a bigger school that had a lot more people. And when I got to West Georgia, I kind of found that experience. But it was good, man. Adam White was a great coach. I met a lot of great people, and I still connect with to today.
Who were some of the best players you played with while you were there?
Rasheed Mathis was drafted in the second round, played over 10 years in the NFL. Let's see, Darren Herndon, Alan Suber, Steve Baggs played defensive end. We really had a lot of talent. I want to say off that team in the 2 years I was there, maybe about 12 guys went to the NFL, so we were loaded.
How do you use that experience to encourage your kids to make sure they uncover all the stones and look at HBCUs when they're on the recruiting trail? And, because some kids get locked in on, I got to go here or I got to do this, where you're just as likely to get an opportunity at the next level at an HBCU as you are at a Power 5, Power 4 conference.
I tell those NFL coaches to get paid a lot of money. Talent. If they're good, they'll fire you. And, the ball that made me play to the HBCU is just as good as the major level ball. The athletes are there, and they're the same. They're big, they're strong, they're fast. You'll be surprised. Don't count or don't uncheck the box because you think that it ain't worth it, or it's a smaller school.
So you were able to transfer from there into West Georgia. What was that like, getting a little bit closer to home?
Well, I think I needed to be at that time. It was a move I really, really wanted to do. Not because of the school that cooked me, but just because, again, there was the college experience that I really wanted. But when I got to West Georgia, you thinking that you're going down to D2 ball and it's going to be different. But there were teams in our conference and the Gulf South Conference that would have beat the best teams in the MEAC. So it was an eye opening experience. How talented those guys are at the Division II level.
Now, who was your head coach when you were at West Georgia?
Mike Letford.
And who was your position coach?
Mike Scott was my position coach my first 2 years. My last year, Spencer Riley was my offensive line coach.
So who, like when you're in college, are you closer to your position coach? I'd assume so.
Oh yeah, it ain't no, you can go talk to Coach Ledford, but my days would be spent in that offensive line coach office with Coach Scott or Coach Riley.
And just learning.
That's it. There's a lot of time in the daytime, and that's really where I became a football junkie. To try to learn as much football as possible.
So, did you know you wanted to coach the whole time? And I mean, if you didn't have NFL aspirations, did you know you wanted to go into education, or is that something that just came about later?
Man, I think about my second year in college, I realized, hey man, I'm not going to the NFL. So let's figure out something. And I'll tell you, in my office line room in college, especially at West Georgia, we talked a lot about what do we want to do when we got to school. And I think in my mind, in the back of my mind, I knew I wanted to be not so much a teacher, but I knew I wanted to be a coach because we talked about it a lot about the offices that we would run if we got the chance to do it. And just looking forward now, I'm actually doing what I said I was going to do.
So you were going to be you were definitely going to be a coach, but maybe not necessarily teach. So what'd you major in? Education?
Political science.
Political science. So history teacher.
So yeah, I mean, I teach government, but yeah, same spectrum.
Same spectrum. So when you got out of West Georgia, what was your first teaching job?
Man, I kind of bounced around. I played a little arena football. But I subbed some in Carroll County. I didn't get my first teaching job till I came up here to Clayton County. And that was probably about 2012. Nah, I'm sorry. It was when my son was born, so it was 2009. It was 2009.
So where all did you get to play arena ball at?
I played in Tupelo, Mississippi. I played in New Orleans. I played in Katy, Texas, and Chicago.
Oh, that's awesome. So you got to go all over.
Oh yeah, I kind of rode the wave, man. I'm gonna tell you what got me to stop. I was playing in Tupelo, and I was playing like fullback because I was a short offensive lineman. So they moved you to fullback in the arena. I had to block this 6'8" offensive lineman, and he took his hand and he put it in my face, and I had whiplash. And the next day I was like, yeah, I don't know if I keep doing this. This teaching sounds very easy right now and less stressful.
Probably a lot less stressful than getting, because you ain't exactly a small dude anyway.
No.
And you find out there's some bigger fish in the ocean out there.
There you go.
Yeah, I had one of the first seasons, I had Bobby Scipio on, and he played some arena ball, and he would tell just some of the best stories about the stuff that y'all were exposed to in arena ball, because people don't understand it. It's a different game, but it's still football.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just a different set of rules and a lot more fast paced and a lot more fun, but you get to meet a lot of new people and go a lot of different places. So you got into Clayton County and started teaching. What was the first school you worked at?
Mount Zion.
Who was your head coach?
Jamie Hall.
Oh, one of the best up at North Atlanta.
That's my buddy, right? Man.
Yeah, he's good.
That's my buddy. Robert right go out of college, man. So it was an interconnection.
That's awesome. So you were his offensive line coach. You coached O-line for him?
So, oh yeah. As he's an offensive lineman, so you only gonna trust a certain amount of people that work with you. I'm just glad he gave me the opportunity to get out there and coach. And
how long were you at Mount Zion?
I was there for 3 years. The crazy woman fiber, man. new principal came in, wanted to hire the middle school coach.
Yeah, well, we talked about it the other day that backwards is a direction when they say they want to go in a different direction. That is different. So where'd you go after Mount Zion?
I had a very, very short stint at Westlake. I mean, like short, man. I was there for the spring, and I ended up going to Charles Drew. I followed James over to Charles Drew, and I started working with Coach Laws.
Okay. Coach Laws is one of the best dudes I've ever talked to, met. Definitely a legend that's helped a lot of younger guys. Dude. Oh, yeah. And he's done a good job of passing it on, getting younger guys into the business and teaching them more about the game than just X's and O's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you were his O-line coach there as well?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And how long were you with him there?
Coach Laws was there 2 years, and then he got the opportunity to go to Griffin. And he was going to take me with him, but I think I made the best decision of my life by staying.
And what ended up happening?
I became the assistant head coach, offensive coordinator at Charles Drew High School. We went on a run where I led the state of scoring at whatever class we was at, maybe 3A, 4A, for 2 years in a row. I took that program to the success. It still hasn't been attained since then.
So you got to implement everything y'all talked about in that offensive line room.
Exactly. And I still attribute a lot of it to Coach Laws. He taught us the offense, and me and Jamie and other people, we were able to carry out our vision inside of that concept or that space. So you start seeing what it looked like with my ideas.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anytime you can finally realize a dream or ideas or putting it, it's one thing to put it on the board. It's something else to put it in them kids.
Mm-hmm.
So you were there, you ran one of the most prolific offenses. Is that when you got the Creekside job?
Yes. Well, my last year at Drew, I think we went like 4-6. Missed the playoff by going one game, and I was ready to stay at Drew, man, because it's such a family atmosphere. I had great leadership, great admin there, great support. And I got a phone call about Creekside around about the end of June, going into the football year.
So, like Bear Bryant said, when Mama called, you had to go back home.
That's it. If it was any other school, I don't think I would have left. But it was Creekside. It was home, man. So home called.
So you got to go home. And at the time, Creekside hadn't been as successful as they had been in the past. So you kind of had to build it back up. Isn't that right?
Yeah. They won state championship in 2013. Downs was there for one more year. Then he left to go to UGA. And so Coach Waters took over, and he did a good job there, but I just don't think it was a fit for him. So they kind of flooded a little bit. So when I took the job, it needed some work.
So how did you, what was the first thing when you walked in that you were like, all right, this is what we got to get fixed? First thing first, what was the first thing that you were like, I got to get this fixed ASAP?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. They were lifting weights in the same weight room with the same weight equipment that I had lift weights in 20 years before that. So I said, man, we got to find a way to get in the community and force the county to support the school and give us some new stuff, man, because, I'm all about the grind, but I'm not trying to get asbestos poisons at the same time, man.
Yeah, they're using stuff 20 years old. Plus that lets the kids know that people care about them, and they're going to give them the same kind of support that these other kids are getting. And in the metro, they look around.
That's it, man. They don't want to find the stuff.
Yeah, it becomes a arms war of who's got the nicest bag and who's getting the T-shirts and the gear and all the drip. So that's awesome. So you got in there and got the weight room first. So what was the next thing you thought you needed to get corrected?
Man, we had to get strong. We had just the basic stuff. We had to get strong. There was not an emphasis in lifting weights and getting strong. I had to get the kids more disciplined, and I had to get the community back into the school, meaning that there were kids who lived right across the street from the school that were going other places to go to school. So I had to get that changed immediately.
Yeah, that's a problem when they can walk to the school and they end up going somewhere else.
Hmm.
So how many feeder programs? I mean, do you have a middle school there, or do y'all have the park system? How does it work at Creekside?
Okay, so there's no middle school football. That's number one, and it hasn't been ever. So that's always been a problem. And growing up, the biggest feeder program that tied in the Creekside was Fairburn. And then Langston was built in the 2000s, so they started splitting Fairburn. But also, Langston also got Union City. Creekside got a part of Old National Park. And then the travel teams were starting to come about. So you had your best players were on those travel teams that played national schedules. So you had to go pay $20 to get in the game to go watch them and go ask their parents to get them to play.
So you had to do a lot of leg work just to get kids in the building.
Exactly. And again, it's just about the kids are in the community. There's enough talent in South Fulton. I believe South Fulton is probably the most talent-rich area in the state, but everybody knows that. So the schools I recruit against are the bigger schools, the bigger city schools that can get those kids in for those small fees that you might pay. So I got to make sure that I make Creekside appetizing. But yeah, it's.
So how did year one go?
Terrible. And I'm a big optimistic guy, right? I came to the interview. Yeah, I think we'll win about 3 or 4 games. My principal told me, "Hey, I'm gonna be real with you. You probably won't win a game." And we didn't win a game, honestly. It was probably the most humbling experience of my life.
Which makes this state championship all the sweeter because you started literally from ground zero
There you go.
to bring it up. So, you had to go back to work. So what were some things you learned in year one there that you had to change going into year two?
I'm gonna tell you what I did. I didn't look at the record. I didn't look at the scoreboard. I put the things in place, the pillars, the foundation, the principles in place that would carry me through the next 9 years. We lift weights 4 times a week. I put in mandatory study hall. I talked about and taught kids how to be good people and how to treat other people the way they want to be treated. And those things kind of carry us through.
Yeah, I remember us talking last week at the All-Star game, and you shared with me about a discipline issue you had, and kids are upset about not touching the ball enough, and you took their uniforms away from. I mean, didn't take them away from them, but put them in different numbers, and
I mean,
that's a testament to building that kind of culture there.
man, the day we live in, you got to find ways to be creative and punishing kids. You can't yell at them too much. You can't touch them. So you got to figure out a way to mess with their egos because that's what hurts the most.
And that all started 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
That 0-10 team. So you come back the second year, you get your program more installed. Did your coaching staff, has it stayed pretty much the same the whole time?
Year 2, I probably got about 80% of my coaching staff. I took over the job so late in the game. A lot of my coaches were already, the ones that I brought in here too, were already getting ready to go into the season. So I couldn't pull them at the last minute. So they came in January.
Well, that was something that we noticed, or we have noticed the past decade, is just watching you build that thing and just getting closer and closer and closer. And then this year, finally getting it over the edge. When did you start playing national schools, like going to Texas and playing Mater Dei and places like that? When did you start doing that?
So COVID year, our schedule was supposed to be, we would have had Grayson at home. We would have went to Cartersville, maybe. But anyway, we ended up playing Cartersville at home COVID year. The following year in 21, we played Grayson. And at that time, Grayson had just came off state championship. Coach Carter, my buddy, he was the head coach there. They were ranked number 7 in the country, and we beat them. Boom. And at that point, the phone started ringing on different conversations of teams to play because it got kind of hard to start scheduling teams in Georgia, especially those top teams. So that first year, we played Dutch Forks. We played Roman and Porky-Cale. We played Dutch Forks in the Cam Newton Classic in South Carolina. And we played East St. Louis. They came to Creekside. And we lost to Rome and we lost to Dutch Forks like by 2 points. And we ended up beating East St. Louis 10-3. And so I think at that point, East St. Louis ranked like number 7 in the country too. So the next year is when Mater Dei called. And before we played them, we played a St. Peter's prep team from New Jersey. So around about 21, that's when the whole national idea started.
So, what are the logistics behind, having to get your kids out of Fairburn? I mean, I know the airport's close by, but still, that costs some money to get these, to play those national schools like that. How would one go about doing that?
Man, I'm gonna be real with you, it's a lot. And if you got two ways to do it. You can deal with a third party that says they're there to help, but they're really there to get a check, or you can take it on the task at hand. Me, I took on the task at hand. So you got to call the airport. You got to find flights that can hold about 80 people on the flight because it's not just the football team you're taking. You're taking your coaching staff. You're taking your support staff, and then you're taking like any admin that want to go on the trip. So we're gonna travel 50 kids, but I got 10 coaches. I got 7 trainers, my AD, and I got my security. They want to come. So, it becomes, a larger expense than you might think of. Things like how are you going to get from the school to the airport? And then once you get on the airport, you go through everything and how are you going to carry your pad to the airport? So you got to buy bags, right? And then, of course, you got to buy the plane tickets. And then once you land, how are you going to get around in Santa Ana, right? And then where you going to stay? And then where you going to eat? All of those decisions that you got to make on your own. You got to go find that information. And I think I did pretty good on it because it was a good experience for the kids until they got on that football field.
Yeah, that's awesome because, I mean, for a lot of those kids, I imagine the first time y'all went, a lot of those children, it was the first time they'd flown.
It was the first time I had been to California before. So, you know, um, for us, the first thing that we did when we got there is we took the kids to the beach so they could have the experience of going to the Pacific Ocean. Right. So, we knew we was going to play a juggernaut, man. We knew who Mater Dei was, but we wanted to make an experience that the kids wouldn't forget.
I'm sure they didn't. I've never seen the Pacific Ocean. I've never been to California myself. So that's pretty cool that, a high school providing that experience through athletics and through your program had to be awesome. So, there's a lot made of last year going to DeSoto and the score of that game and then the turnaround to this year. But there was some extenuating circumstances in that first game that most people don't know about.
Oh yeah. You know, I think the first year that the kids did a really good job of doing what they're supposed to do. We got a lot of compliments from people about how well your kids were behaved, and kids gonna be kids, man. So we went out to Texas, and it's a little bit closer. The flight a little bit shorter. This time we didn't stay in Santa Ana, which is really not the city. We stayed in Dallas. So we had some kids that chose to make some bad decisions, and we're out past curfew. So as a coach, you're sitting here like, what are you? Now, more we had a really young team. We lost a lot because that team that went to Santa Ana, we lost the state championship and had a lot of seniors on it. So as a coach, you're faced with a tough decision. Am I going to play these guys? And we still probably might lose, but it might be a closer game. Or am I going to, set an example of what we're supposed to do? And hopefully, by setting that example, it'll make our season run a lot smoother once the kids know I cut my nose to spite my face. And so I made a decision to sit them down. And it was my entire secondary that sat down. So, when you lose 5 starters, um, it puts you in a position where people have to carry their load. So we put our receivers at DB, But we were such a young team, and if you know anything about Texas football, it ain't no 7 to 10 games out there. You got to score to win. So when we get on offense to throw the ball, our receivers are dog tired because they're covering. They got to cover every play, and so it was just an equation where it got out of hand, and it was some gamesmanship done by Coach Mathis that I knew if I had the time, if I had the opportunity in the next year, I would get them back for it. I think they were up, and I asked for the run the clock, and the referee came and told me, "Yeah, Coach Mathis ain't going to set that run the clock." He said he got some things he got to work on. So I just took a mental note of it, and I knew I would have an opportunity the next year.
Now, the lesson that was taught to the children apparently paid off because y'all went back this year and completely flipped script on them.
Oh yeah, I mean, because you remember that, like the butt whipping they took. And not only did they get their butts whooped, it was like total embarrassment. By the time we got back to the hotel, on the news, state runner up from Georgia gets demolished by Texas state champion. And so, not only did they get it in Texas, of course they got it back at home. We live in a world where social media is like harsh. You know, we told them don't go out there. We told them to stop scheduling them tough teams. And for us, you lose what you learn.
So this year, tables turned. You get them, did they come out here or did you go back to their place?
Oh no, they had to come out here.
Mm-hmm.
They had to come out here.
It didn't really work out for them, did it?
No, I just remember so the game in Texas was at 4 o'clock, and we had to face that Dallas Heat. So I made sure that game was here at 4 o'clock. So they faced that Georgia humidity, that Georgia heat. And to be honest, I don't think they took the game as tough as they should have. But little did they know that we had been practicing for them a long time. And the year before we didn't get any film on them, we got film on them this year.
Yeah, that makes a difference. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how. I guess they just do things so much differently out there. And
Solid Texas, man. We called about 12 schools, and now coach, we just don't trade film with outside schools. They had a scrimmage, and we had a scrimmage. Yeah, coach, in Texas, we don't trade scrimmage film. Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
Well, that's different. Well, let me read this real quick. If you're a coach gearing up for the job search, you already know your portfolio can make or break your next opportunity. At coachingportfolio.com, we help coaches at every level stand out with elite professional grade portfolios, resumes, and interview prep tools. From ready-to-use templates to custom-built documents, we take the guesswork out of the process. Whether you're chasing your first job or your dream job, be prepared, be polished, and be unforgettable. Visit coachingportfolio.com and make your next move with confidence. Well, Coach, after reading that, I would have to say that that game y'all had with them at your place, y'all were prepared, y'all were polished, and I imagine y'all were unforgettable when they got
You right about that.
So
and we were unforgiving.
Did you tell them that you had some things you needed to work on this time?
Midway through the third quarter, the referees had brought both head coaches to the middle of the field because the game was getting a little chippy. And the coach was complaining about sideline noise. There were kid people on the sideline who weren't a part of the team that were talking, to the players or whatever. And like I told the referee, I said, Mr. Official, when we was in Texas and I was getting my butt whooped, I didn't say anything. And I think the coach said something to the effect of, that's right, because I was kicking your butt 70-0. And my response was, well, we got plenty of time left in this game. I'm going to see how many points I'm going to score on you tonight. So,
so 70 it was.
There you go. And it was 70 with about 7 minutes left in the game. So I really just stopped scoring.
So when did you know? I mean, I know y'all played for a state championship with these guys when they were younger, some of them. When did you know, like, this year was going to be very, very special? Or was it all the way up until the end?
I think the Rome game, we went down 21-0. And we were able to come back. And if you would have saw the way Rome was performing, like Rome, I love Coach Reed to death. I think he's a great coach. But they quit in that fourth quarter. And it was one of those things where I probably could have scored 70 in that game. But I had so much respect for coach that I didn't do it. And then the Soto game, if I could get my kids to play at that level, because we're not gonna have like DeSoto ain't still the 6A Division II state champion in Texas. They were a very talented team. They look as good as any of the top teams do in Georgia. If I could get my kids to play the level that they play at that game, in the playoffs, I knew it was nobody that could beat us.
So you go through the regular season and you finish undefeated, and that's got to feel great. So that's check that box. You got a region championship and an undefeated regular season. So what was going into the playoffs like? I mean, did y'all have it mapped out? Did y'all kind of already have an idea of who y'all were going to match up with?
Yeah, well, this is what I'll say about us. This was my first head coaching job here at Creekside, but every year as a staff, we have gotten better at not only how we handle the season, but how we prepare for the postseason. So, a couple of years back, my OC, he good at it. We know who we're going to play and when we're going to play them. So we kind of knew the who we was going to play the whole way through. I even knew that Kidd would play Cartersville, and I didn't really think – I knew Cartersville was a good team, but I knew Kidd was a good team too, so I had them winning that game. So I knew we would play them in the semis.
So that makes preparation a little bit easier, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, so you're able to, probably by the first round of playoffs, we had film on everybody who was going to play.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference in preparation. So you get to the state finals, you're playing Benedictine, and it's a contrasting styles and totally different. They're private school kids, y'all are city kids, but you're playing in the city. At what point during the game were you like, we got it? Because you told me y'all got up there early.
Yeah, when we it was when we went to halftime and it was 24-21. I said, he done ran a lot of good plays. I don't think he got that many good plays left, but we got plenty. A lot of people were like, because we were there, a lot of people were panicking, but for us to be punched back, and just visualize you get hit in your lip and you tasting that blood. That kind of got our kids juiced. We was like, okay, we got a game. So I knew at halftime it wasn't a lot of yelling, it wasn't a lot of fussing. It was the pace of the game has become the way we like to play. They want to score, and we want to score. Let's see, can they play at this pace, especially for this third quarter? Well, we came out in the third quarter and we scored 21. Well, we started them and we scored 21 points straight on 3 straight drives. At that point, I kind of knew because what they were running on offense, they started repeating plays. When you start repeating plays that you hear early in the game, hoping that teams would let you get it twice, at that point, I know that, we kind of going to take the game over at that point.
Yeah, I remember, I can't remember if it was, I think it was the third quarter. One of your linebackers dropped under an RPO and dove and made an interception, and those kids were so jacked up, I thought to myself, all right, that's probably it right there. Because 2 or 3 plays later, y'all scored, and I was like, yeah, I think this one's over. So as an alumni, starting at 0-10, and when you're the head coach there, making up for, playing a national schedule, the naysayers, all the people in the community telling you shouldn't play these people, you win the state championship. That must have felt great.
Man, I couldn't control my emotions, man. If you look on the TV and the pictures, those tears are just tears of joy because just to know where you came from. I can remember a teacher saying, Coach, why do y'all keep playing them teams that beat the hell out of our coach? And when I told her, I said, because we got to win the 15th game. And so to win the 15th game, it just validates the process. And that was the biggest thing for me, the validation.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, I can only imagine what, especially somebody that played there and put on the uniform, was a member of the tribe. I mean, it's just, that had to be like icing on the cake for you.
Man, words can't explain it. Because, it's so many Creekside is about 35 years old now. So we kind of got an alumni base, people who have been there and played there and during the era, it was this and that. And it was, well, Coach, you're doing a good job, Coach, but just ain't one that big one. So to accomplish that, along with, I had a lot of success when I played, but we didn't win the big one either. It was just kind of coming full circle and finishing the icing on the cake.
Oh yeah, especially coming up a little bit short a couple of years ago, and then getting finally pushed over the edge, and that's I mean that's just awesome. Did y'all do anything differently in your preparation during the off season this year, as far as how you handled spring and how you handled OTAs?
Well, we always try to challenge ourselves. But I think this summer was probably the most challenging summer ever. We probably traveled more this year than we ever had traveled before. You always do your 7-on-7s where you go to Georgia, you go to Georgia Tech. We try to hit all the state schools so our kids get exposed to those schools. But we even went out to Jackson, Mississippi for a 7-on-7. We went down to OTAs at Thomas County Central and got some great work down there. Our kids really were pushed in the off season for this moment. Somebody told me you got to do things that you hadn't done before to get the results that you want, and so I kept that mind frame, and I try to do things that that were hard.
So, what's up for this next off season? I mean, what can you do? What are you going to do differently? You're going to have to take task at hand, like you said you did with the travel and get ready for the national schedule. I mean, looking ahead, you got a lot coming back. It was a reclass year, which who cares? That's not going to matter to y'all. Y'all are still going to be good. What are some things in the
Mm-hmm.
off season you're looking at implementing from now until we get on the grass again in August?
Well, I think I think our process is really good right now. We bring the kids. We always start the day after MLK Day, so we'll start back with different ways on January the 20th, and we bring them in the morning. And then we'll go from about 6, really 5:30 to about 7:40, and we'll do plyos and we'll lift. And we'll do some abs stuff like that. And then if the kids play a second sport, they'll go to that practice. And then around about February, we'll start incorporating position specific drills. So the quarterbacks and receivers, they'll throw in their kits in the afternoons after school. The offensive linemen to come in 3 times a week. The D linemen a week 3 times a week with their position coaches. And throughout the whole entire team, they'll meet and they'll start, talking football, learning football. Then about March, for those guys who are not running track, we'll start incorporating trials and speed work after school along with the morning workouts. And so then all that leads up to spring. And then, whoever we're playing spring, because we haven't found the game yet. We found the game, but a couple teams backed out. It is what it is. But the summer will be interesting. I think we're going to go on a week where we go to a couple of colleges and do 7-on-7s. But logistically, we got to find a way to lift at the same time. So I think I found a formula, just a couple of tweaks here and there, just to keep us on the right track.
So I'm going to harken back to something you said earlier about when the COVID year hit, which that was totally insane for everybody. And you had your schedule was this, but then you couldn't play this group. Well, now you got PSR. You're coming off a 15-0, very dominant season. How do you think the PSR and the playoffs, how's that affected you finding a schedule for next year?
Well, I still can't find no games in Georgia. I still have, it seems, I put it like this. I'm still playing, I got 2 non-region games. I'm still playing 2 national opponents because I haven't found a game in state to play again. I can't, at my school, we can't buy out teams to come play us. I just can't do that because we don't have the money in our program for that. So we got to play games, number one, that provide us competition to get better. And number 2, is just the games that we can get. So I think the first game against Clay Topville, and I'm trying to find a week 2 game for the 28th right now. And we got our fall scrimmages against Grayson. So, just trying to put it together. I'm going to see how it works against us with these two national games. I just think it rewards teams for not playing tough opponents. That's the way I say it nicely.
Yeah, I got you. I get it because I've had so many people reach out. I need a week this, I need a week that, and I'm like, well, here's a list of people that I know that are looking for the games, and it's funny because they're the same ones that they can't find upon. I'm like, why don't y'all get together and play each other? Well, no, I don't want to do that, because that PSR they don't want none of that smoke. And I'm like, well, all right, y'all sit over there and color if you want to, but you're gonna have to play. You're gonna have to play somebody, and until they change it, that's just people are gonna have to keep doing what you're doing. And so you got a chance to go back to back this year. What are some things that you would say to encourage young coaches that might be interested in eventually being a head coach one day?
But one of the biggest things I learned from Ron Matchell with my first principal. He said, "Coach, write out your plan in 5 years. Have your 5-year plan, have your 10-year plan, and you don't got to necessarily look at that plan every day, but every couple of years, go back and see if you're hitting the marks that you put on there, the goals that you put on there." So I would plan my life out in maybe 5 years of what I wanted to be, and I've been doing that. I did it before I even knew Coach Maxwell because I was at Drew 5 years. And when I got to Drew, my goal was in 5 years, I wanted to be a head football coach. And so when I got to Creekside, in 5 years, I wanted to win a state championship. And we played in the semis in 5 years. And so by year 9, we won a state championship. And so, just playing your life out in 5 years and put some goals there that you can achieve that are attainable.
What are some things you noticed about younger coaches these days that is a little bit different than when you were coming along?
They're impatient. They wanna be the head coach or the play caller before they master the position they're in. The biggest advice, some more advice I got was from Coach Laws: you be the head coach of your position. I was the offensive line coach at Drew, and I was the head JV coach. Coach Laws last year before he went to Griffin, he said, "Reese, you can't be the JV coach no more because when you lead practice, I talk in a completely different language than the offensive line do." So once you build ownership and dominate and master your position, then it's time to move up. You don't want to rush the process because at the end of the day, you got to have something that you can lean on that's going to make your team successful. I know at Creekside, we always going to be pretty good up front because I control that.
Yeah, and since you played that position, that's the worst, man. When you're the position coach for the position that the head coach played, you got a whole nother microscope on. But in your situation, you are the offensive line coach, I would imagine, and those kids are probably even more upset if they let you down.
Well, I do have Coach Mike Westmore is a great coach. He helps me with the offensive line, and over the last, he's been with me for 8 years, and I have kind of let go of the position as the years went on. Now I still go over there, and when I feel like it's time to work, we're gonna work. And he's a late coach, so in the off season, I'm the one that leads that charge. But my team goes as far as my trenches go. So that's offensive line and defensive line. And one of the things about playing for offensive line coach is you, as an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, you're gonna be respected because, like I tell the skill guys, you guys catch touchdowns, you take the pictures, your name gonna be in the paper. These big guys are gonna always be in the front of the line, and they always gonna eat first.
I like it. That's what I've told mine too. I'm like, look, we're gonna get all the blame and none of the glory.
There you go. That's it.
And that's just part of it. So I don't want to hear it. Don't complain about it. Just do your job, and we'll figure out a different way to take care of you. Well, Coach, it sure has been a pleasure getting to know you. It's been fantastic watching you build this thing over the past 9 years, and I can't wait to see you repeat next year.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.